Hey there Internet, Janumbo here. Now I wanted to do a video update on a weblog series I've got going on called Mobile Games That Might Not Suck. What that is me just looking up on Google Play Store trying to find games that I could honestly recommend to people without feeling too bad about it. Because let's be honest, a lot of mobile games tend to suck. It's kind of a shovelware platform in a way. But I have some kind of faith in it just as a concept. So I'm constantly on the lookout, just trying to find games that are alright. Even if they aren't the greatest, they don't suck. Hopefully. So the first game that I want to put out there as a recommendation is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Now, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is, in my opinion, an example of an RPG done right on a mobile platform. Brave Exvius is definitely not Square Enix's first attempt at a Final Fantasy mobile game, but it's probably the best so far. See, most Final Fantasy mobile games out there heavily rely on pandering to the nostalgia of its target audience by filling it with a bunch of old characters from all the classic Final Fantasies. And Brave Exvius is not an exception. But where most Final Fantasy mobile games stop there, Brave Exvius offers more. It offers a whole robust campaign of its own, with its own unique characters and its own unique story and its own unique world, and it's really well done, really well executed. Because as you explore the world, it feels like a classic Final Fantasy game. Like the world feels like a classical Final Fantasy world, and that's awesome. It just feels like Final Fantasy, and it's the first time I've played a Final Fantasy mobile game that felt like a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius revolves around mostly these three characters, Rain, Laswell, and Fina, as they're trying to save the world from these heavily armored Veritas guys by visiting each of these elemental based temples and fixing the crystal or whatever inside of it, or making sure it's okay. And along the way, they meet a bunch of cool people. They go to really cool towns that you get to explore around, and they go to these dungeons, which you explore mostly through menus and stuff. But then the fights are like classic Final Fantasy fights, and the fights are done mostly through these things called mirages that Rain summons, and those are your units basically. And those units are all classic Final Fantasy characters, or at least most of them are. Some of them are unique to Brave Exvius. And the fighting system is really well done, really well put together, because the UI works. It just feels good as you're playing it on your mobile phone, clicking away or tapping away with your finger. And you get your characters through this kind of gotcha game. You draw a crystal, and from that crystal will be one of a big pool of characters. And each character has its own rarity and stuff. All the classic characters, or most of the classic characters are like rare, like from from a scale of like common to super rare, legendary kind of stuff. Most of the classic characters are rare or higher, and you mostly pull using the game's like real world currency. But it's awesome because it's pretty easy to get that real world currency through the game. So it doesn't have as much of a like fee to play or pay to win kind of feel to it, because you can pretty easily get the stuff that you want, the characters that you want, just through playing naturally, and that's awesome. That's what really sets it apart from a lot of mobile games, in my opinion. So you get like your dream team of characters from your favorite Final Fantasy games, and you level them up, and you gear them out, and you arm them to the teeth, and you run them through the story mode, or you do these regularly updated events that the developer Gumi releases weekly or bi-weekly, and that makes up like the end game content stuff, and it's constantly being updated, and it's constantly something for you to do. So the game always feels fresh and always feels like there's something to do. In fact, it almost always feels like there's too much to do. It's crazy just how much effort the developers are putting into this game on a consistent, almost daily basis. And finally, what I think really sets it apart, I know I've been saying it sets it apart a lot, but what I think really sets Brave Exvius apart from most of any game is that it's got such a positive and awesome community. So far, there have been a lot of really cool YouTubers and Twitch streamers just rising out of the woodwork and coming out with these great guides and these great reviews and these great conversations with everybody. And it just feels like a whole community. Like it just has that feel to it. It's awesome. And it makes playing the game feel like one big co-op. Like you're all in the same like MMO style guild or something. And it fosters this fun environment and helps you do better at the game. It helps you do better at the game both from a morale standpoint, but also from a mechanical standpoint because you're recruiting all these units from your friends and stuff, and you find new friends by contributing to this community, and it's great. And the stronger you get, the stronger they get, and it just kind of snowballs into everybody just helping each other to beat the next big thing that Gumi comes out with. So yeah, overall, I'd say Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is a surprisingly positive experience for a mobile game. Something that I would never have really expected, even trying to look out for them in this mobile games that might not suck thing. It has such a great feel to it. It feels like a classic Final Fantasy JRPG. It has all these cool characters. The story is actually a lot of fun to go through. Like it's pretty well written in my opinion. The community's just been amazing so far. And it always just feels good when you pull that one character that you've just been in love with ever since you started Final Fantasy or ever since you started gaming, you know? So overall, I'd say Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is definitely up there on my list of games to recommend, and probably number one, definitely number one actually, on my list of mobile games that might not suck.